At the auction, my husband's assistant accidentally broke a million-yuan jade bracelet. Without saying a word, he paid for the compensation. The assistant tweeted to show off. Without experiencing the storm, how could you see the rainbow? Thank you to my boss for his generous support. I will work even harder. She forwarded this tweet to me. I messaged my husband. I heard someone broke Mr. Kim's bracelet. How much did it cost to compensate? Not much. Just a small amount. $1 million is small change? I'll give you 1 minute to transfer 30 million to me right now. It took him a while to reply. Stop joking, wife. The next second, he received a picture from me. It was a photo of his most precious watch, which I had smashed into pieces. Exactly 30 million. Andrew's call came in immediately. Roxana, do you know that there are only 3 of these watches in the world? What are you thinking? What are you yelling at me for? I think my message was clear enough. I looked at the clock on the wall. You're 47 seconds overdue. I'm in your garage now. And you know what the consequences are. Andrew hung up immediately. Less than a minute later, I received the 30 million transfer notification. I looked at the 30 million balance in my bank account and curled my lips into a cold smile. With a few taps on my phone screen, I sent the photo I had prepared, a close-up of his limited edition Ferrari. With its front smashed beyond recognition, the phone rang almost instantly. Roxana, Andrew's voice was squeezed out through gritted teeth. Do you have any idea how much I spent on that car? Yes, I interrupted him. 38 million. Just last month. Shipped in from Italy. Does it hurt? If it does, remember this. I don't want to see another incident like this again. Andrew hung up in silence, clearly enraged. I shrugged. I knew he was angry, but I didn't care. A business marriage doesn't need any feelings. If there are, that's lucky. If not, it doesn't matter. Andrew and I met 3 years ago through a blind date. We were both satisfied with each other's family background and appearance, but there was no burning love between us. Less than half a year later, we smoothly got our marriage certificate. On our wedding night, we instinctively returned to our own rooms, and even politely said goodbye on the stairs. For a whole year after marriage, I only shared a room with Andrew because we got drunk together. The Law family's auction house is a century-old prestigious family, firmly holding the top spot in the auction world. Their family rules are thicker than the catalog of the Forbidden Cities collection. My family, on the other hand, is a rising newcomer. My father worked overseas for years before returning to clean up his reputation and establish himself in China. We don't have the same rules as the Law family, and there's even a bit of street smarts. That's why I don't care whether Andrew loves me or not. We're not the kind of people who would sacrifice benefits for love. But this time, when the appraiser stepped on my face to show off, I couldn't stay silent. I won't allow anyone to blatantly take what's mine, not even a glance. But I knew Andrew wasn't the kind of person to stay silent either. Sure enough, that night I received a message from my best friend. Lisa, Roxana, why did your husband bring a stranger tonight to the banquet? I opened the message. It was a photo. The background was familiar. It was Law's VIP reception room at the Rhine Mansion, where they entertained their best clients. Andrew was sitting next to a young woman, wearing an outrageously luxurious gown, looking like she was attending such an event for the first time and had put a lot of effort into her appearance. Slap! I slammed my phone face down on the coffee table. Lisa's messages kept popping up. This girl is bold. She dares to flaunt that bracelet Mr. Law bought her in public. Wait, wasn't that bracelet broken? I clicked on Virginia's tweet and saw a photo she had just posted. She was holding onto Andrew's arm, smiling under the crystal chandelier at the GUA pavilion, like a cat who had just stolen a fish. The caption read, "Thanks to Mr. Law for bringing me to such an upscale event." And the most glaring thing was the jade bracelet on her wrist, the one that should have been broken, the very one Andrew had paid $1 million for last week. I remembered half a year ago. Andrew's assistant. She had merely leaned closer to Andrew while handing him documents. And the next day, she was fired on the spot. What had Andrew said at the time? Law doesn't need employees who don't know their place. Now, he was indulging an appraiser who posted a picture on Twitter, clearly showing off her broken million-yuan jade bracelet. I immediately called Andrew. It rang 7 times before it went to voicemail. Very well. I sneered and opened WeChat. Mr. Law is taking the female appraiser to a VIP banquet. Does he not need to explain to his wife? I messaged Lisa. Did he look at his phone? Lisa's reply came instantly. He looked at it but didn't reply. Did you confront him? I sent Andrew another message. Reply. I know you saw my message. The message was once again like a stone thrown into the sea. Andrew still didn't reply. I'm giving you one last chance. If I don't see your reply in 10 seconds, you'll face the consequences. The raindrops outside started tapping on the glass. I walked to the study, took out the slightly yellowed diary from the safe, and took a picture to send to Andrew. Andrew replied immediately. Roxana, what are you trying to do? Lisa's message came right after. Wow, Roxana, you've made Mr. Law pale. What did you send him? I smiled and sent her a sticking out tongue emoji. Watch the show! The diary was left by Andrew's first love, Alicia. On the first page, there was a line that read, to 16-year-old Andrew. I hope you like this gift. It was her private diary, meant to be given to Andrew when she confessed her feelings. But before she could confess, she and Andrew were kidnapped. To buy him time for rescue, she was brutally killed in front of him by the kidnappers. This diary was the only thing she left behind, and Andrew valued it more than his own life. Thinking of this, I suddenly realized that Virginia resembled that first love in 3 ways. I couldn't help but laugh. Andrew really was getting worse and worse. Now even playing the substitute game, a disgusting act. Don't touch it. We can talk this through. Messages kept coming in rapid succession. It seemed Andrew was really nervous about this diary. Now, call me. The next second, my phone rang immediately. Put it on speaker. I said calmly. There was the sound of fabric rustling on the other end, followed by Andrew's suppressed breathing. I'm in a social event. I said, put it on speaker. After a moment of silence, the speakerphone beeped. The sounds of clinking glasses and laughter in the background suddenly stopped, and it seemed the entire banquet hall went silent. I'm sorry to disturb everyone. My voice came through the phone into the magnificent banquet hall. I'm Andrew's wife, Roxana. I could imagine the scene, those elegantly dressed guests holding their champagne glasses, staring in shock at the main table. Virginia must still be wearing that exaggerated smile, though her lips were starting to tremble. My husband should have brought me to this dinner tonight, but I didn't receive any information about tonight's event. I said slowly, my fingers brushing over the yellowed corner of the diary. Roxana, calm down. She and I are just in a normal superior-subordinate relationship. Don't misunderstand. Really? Which boss gives a subordinate a million-yuan bracelet? I don't care about what filthy things you have going on. Now, Andrew, I want you to slap her twice in front of everyone. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Are you crazy? Andrew lowered his voice. You can refuse. I opened the diary to the middle page where it said, I remember this page talks about the first time she saw you. Andrew looks so handsome playing basketball. I secretly took a photo and hid it in the diary. Enough. Andrew's voice suddenly rose, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap came through the phone. Ah. Virginia's scream pierced my eardrums. Continue. I said. Slap. The second slap was even harder, and I even heard something fall to the ground, probably the jade bracelet. There was silence on the other end. I closed the diary with satisfaction. Good. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of red wine. I remembered our wedding 3 years ago, when we exchanged rings. Andrew's smile was like a carefully measured arc. When our grandfathers shook hands and said a strong union, everyone at the venue understood the unspoken meaning. This marriage was never a fairy tale. He was the perfect heir cultivated by the Law family, and I was the gem appraiser honed by the Lin family. We were like 2 antiques displayed in a showcase, labeled well-matched families. My phone vibrated. Lisa sent me a video. In the video, Virginia was covering her face and running out of the banquet hall, with Andrew following her, his face dark with anger. The video ended with a close-up on the priceless jade bracelet, shattered even more completely than last time. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I saw Andrew standing at the door through the surveillance camera, his tie crooked, his eyes filled with the familiar fury. I pressed the intercom button, wait in the garage, and then turned off the screen. Let him stand in the rain for a while. After all, a soaked phoenix is no better than a drowned chicken. Lisa, still not satisfied, called me. That was amazing. What exactly did you send him? Teach me. I want to learn how to manage my husband too. I laughed. It's nothing. If you don't care about him, you can control him. Hearing that, Lisa scoffed. Then I definitely can't do that. Of course. She couldn't. She and her husband grew up as childhood sweethearts, stuck together every day since school, their love as inseparable as conjoined twins. But now that you've done this to the Law family, do you think he'll come looking for trouble? Come looking for trouble? I sneered. He brought Virginia out flaunting her, and I didn't even make trouble for him. The sound of fabric rustling came from behind me, and I turned around to see a soaking wet Andrew. His face was grim, and the first thing he asked was, "My diary. Where is it?" I remained silent, hung up the phone, and stared into his eyes. He stared at me, and after a long silence, he finally gave in and slumped onto the sofa. "I've done what you asked. What more do you want? Did I ask you to embarrass yourself in front of everyone? Don't you have anything to explain to me?" Andrew opened his mouth but said nothing. "I know what you want to say. You want to tell me that there's nothing between you two, that you're innocent. But let me ask you, why did you fire your previous assistant just for leaning towards you? You gave her a million-yuan bracelet. What do you think that represents? Andrew, you're not someone who is that careless. Your constant indulgence of her is the very reason she dared to provoke me." Andrew's face turned darker, and I kept pressing on. I looked at her resume. She has no experience in appraisal. How did she get into the auction house? Andrew, you're using her to relive memories of your first love. You're finding emotional comfort in her. You're nostalgic for the time you spent with Alicia. Am I right? Andrew finally lost control of his emotions and buried his face in his hands. "Roxana, please stop. Please stop." I pushed his hand away and cupped his tear-streaked face. "Andrew, I love you. That's why I'm upset and angry about all of this. Do you love me?" He spoke softly. "I do." I got the answer I wanted, then took the diary from the drawer and gently placed it in Andrew's arms. "I love you, so I would never hurt the thing you cherish most. But Andrew, I won't love you blindly. Don't let me down again." Andrew immediately pulled me into his arms, then suddenly pushed me onto the bed. A shiver ran down my spine, and I trembled uncontrollably. This reaction seemed to excite him. The expensive silk nightgown tore under his hands, and the moment our bare skin touched, I tasted the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. "Remember," I gripped the back of his neck, my fingers turning white, and I whispered in his ear, "You only get this one chance." He responded with a rough movement, his hoarse voice making a promise. "There won't be a next time." The news of Andrew slapping Virginia in front of clients spread quickly. Her position at the auction house took a sharp decline. No one would say a word to her face. But the increasingly marginal work assignments and the subtle glances from those around her made Virginia understand that her days of arrogance were over. The auction house was, after all, a place where appearances mattered the most. When Virginia's disciplinary report was submitted to Andrew's office, he signed it without hesitation, and the exclusion became more and more apparent. Virginia was demoted from appraiser to appraiser assistant, along with a reduction in her salary. Her situation deteriorated day by day, making continuous mistakes, both big and small, until she finally reached the point of being forced to resign. Andrew's assistant actively sent Virginia her termination contract, but I didn't expect her to still manage to create a scene. The light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a cold white hue in Andrew's office. Virginia stood in Andrew's office, her cotton and linen white dress clashing with the modern decor of the office. The daisy embroidery at the hem was already coming undone. This was a dress she spent 3 nights replicating, stitching each thread to match Alicia's photos from her life. "Mr. Law," her voice trembled, "I really don't know what I did wrong." Andrew stood by the window, his back rigid. The rain outside slanted against the glass, leaving winding trails like tears. The dismissal notice from HR was placed on his desk, the red official seal like an unhealed wound. "They said I don't meet the job requirements." Virginia suddenly lifted her face, her tears washing away the deliberately applied makeup. "But last week, you even praised my appraisal of the Wu Changshua painting as being professional. You know, my mom is still in the hospital." Seizing the opportunity, Virginia grabbed his sleeve, her nails digging into the fabric. "If I lose my job, I won't be able to afford her chemotherapy. I've come to you because I have no other choice. Please, Give me a chance to stay. A flash of lightning cracked outside. Andrew looked at the face in front of him, 3 parts resembling Alicia's. And for a moment, he was transported back to that warehouse. He stormed into the assistant's office, his face dark with fury. Who gave you the right to interfere with personnel matters? The one who pays your salary is me. How dare you use the power I gave you to target my people? Are you out of your mind? The assistant, unfazed, responded. Mr. Law, who exactly is your person? Andrew's face grew darker, and he growled, "You're fired. Get out. Now." That day, Andrew exploded at me for the first time. "Roxana," he raised his voice, "are you really going to drive me to the edge?" My gem appraisal cabinet was overturned. The precious Burmese pigeon blood rubies rolled onto the Persian carpet, and the cutting knives sank into the leather sofa. Andrew stepped over the mess and approached me. "Do you think smashing a few watches and destroying a few cars can control me? I'll tell you this. Virginia won't leave. From now on, she's my assistant. Don't think just because we're married, you can do whatever you want." With that, he slammed the door and stormed out. I expressionlessly watched him leave, then squatted down and picked up a sharp piece of broken glass. Blood dripped from my palm onto the shattered diamonds, blooming like a flower. "Andrew, since you've turned against me, don't blame me for being ruthless." At the Law family's old estate, my eyes were bloodshot and my hand was wrapped thickly in gauze. Mr. Law paced back and forth in the living room, the irritation in his eyes almost tangible, brewing into a massive storm. Mrs. Law sat beside me, heartbroken as she looked at my bandaged arm, the resentment in her eyes reaching its peak. An hour ago, after getting my wound treated at the hospital, I went straight to Andrew's parents' home and bluntly told them their good son had turned against me over a young appraiser who resembled his first love. He had publicly defended her at work and humiliated me by taking her to dinners. Because I fired that appraiser, Andrew had even slashed my hand today and screamed at me. As I said this, my eyes shimmered with unshed tears, stubbornly refusing to fall. This made the older couple even angrier at their son. Mr. Law immediately called Andrew. "I don't care whose skirt you're hiding under right now. Get back here immediately. If you don't show up in half an hour, don't bother coming back for the rest of your life." Mrs. Law held my hand tightly, hugging me as if afraid I would run away, repeatedly comforting me, promising that today they would make Andrew apologize properly and never let me suffer any grievance. Leaning into Mrs. Law's embrace, I sobbed softly from time to time, but in my heart, I was thinking about how to make the situation even bigger. Only a fool would abandon their own advantages to compete fairly with a girl who had nothing. A smart businesswoman uses the resources at hand to win. I am Andrew's legal wife, protected by law. I have the full support of my in-laws, the binding cooperation between our families, and financial strength that could crush that little appraiser. Why should I abandon all of that to compete over who's younger? Who looks more like Andrew's dead first love? The key was, my father was a man who, if challenged, would destroy his opponent completely. Today, I just wanted Andrew to surrender. I didn't plan on becoming a widow so soon. That's why I firmly rejected my father's offer to step in. The function of nuclear weapons is deterrence. This conventional war doesn't need you involved. If I lose tonight, it means there's nothing left in the Law family worth my attachment. When that time comes, do whatever you want. I won't stop you. Thus, my father, who was sharpening his knives, retreated behind the curtains, becoming a tiger waiting for the signal to strike. Half an hour later, the door to the villa swung open, and a frost-faced Andrew stepped inside. When I saw him, I almost couldn't hold back my laughter. That idiot actually brought Virginia along. The moment they stepped in, Andrew felt the heavy pressure in the villa, and the frost on his face faded slightly. "Dad, I was in a meeting. What was so urgent that you had to call me back now?" Mr. Law snorted. "What meeting at this hour? Couldn't you hold your meetings during the day? Who were you meeting with? Tell me. I'll verify it." Andrew said nothing. He hadn't expected his father to push so hard on a lie he casually made up. He hadn't been in a meeting, he was having dinner with Virginia, and Virginia's social media post had exposed everything. I had already shown that post of the two of them dining together to Mr. and Mrs. Law. In front of outsiders, Mr. Law gave his son no face. "Speak! Why are you suddenly mute? Where's that vigor you had when you were beating your wife?" beating his wife? Andrew's confused gaze fell on me and finally noticed the thick gauze on my arm. His face darkened immediately. Roxana, when did I ever hit you? You're quite the actor. Even putting on a show for my parents. My eyes turned red, and tears of humiliation slid down my cheeks. Right. You didn't hit me. As soon as I said that, Mr. Law slapped Andrew across the face. You bastard. Roxana's injured like this. And you dare say she's lying? The slap was heavy enough that Andrew's nose immediately started bleeding. Virginia screamed in fright and quickly pulled out tissues to stop Andrew's nosebleed. Mrs. Law's grip on my hand tightened. I knew that little intimate action between them had thoroughly enraged her. Andrew, what are you doing? You may not want your face, but our Law family still needs to save face. Hearing Mrs. Law's scolding, Virginia froze. Only then did she realize it wasn't the time to show off intimacy. She quickly retreated to the side, clutching a tissue, pretending to behave. Andrew's face was full of anger. Roxana, haven't you caused enough trouble? Slap! Mr. Law slapped him again, and now blood was streaming from both of Andrew's nostrils. Shut up! You do such shameless things, and you still have the nerve to get aggressive with your wife? How did I raise such an ungrateful, heartless son? Mrs. Law glared at Virginia, who was hiding behind him. Why did you bring her back here? Are you trying to have Roxana step aside for her? Or are you telling us you're ready to replace your wife? Virginia's eyes glistened with tears as she frantically shook her head. No, it's not like that. I'm just Mr. Law's subordinate. Uncle, aunt, please don't misunderstand. Ignoring his bleeding nose, Andrew shielded Virginia behind him. Don't make wild accusations. Nothing happened between us. She's just my employee. I never cheated. Mrs. Law picked up the ashtray from the table and hurled it at them. Sharing candlelight dinners now? Do you think we're blind or stupid? The ashtray missed, but Virginia still cried out in pain. Mrs. Law sneered. Really a seasoned vixen, screaming in pain even when it didn't hit her. What's the matter? Afraid no man will come to coddle you? Virginia's face turned pale. She realized she had overacted and quickly lowered her head. Pretending to be meek. Dad, Mom, Virginia and I are purely superior and subordinate. I can guarantee I haven't cheated. We're clean. Don't listen to Roxana's nonsense. He grabbed Virginia's hand. You don't believe your own son but would rather believe an outsider? If that's what you think, then fine. With that, he pulled Virginia with him and slammed the door on his way out. As Mr. Law cursed furiously behind him, I gently but firmly pulled my hand away from Mrs. Law's grip. Dad, Mom, since Andrew said that, I think there's no need for me to stay with him anymore. There's nothing more to say. I'm going to divorce him. The next morning, when the former chief assistant walked into the company's main entrance, she bumped into Virginia, who was looking smug and full of herself. Seeing her former superior, Virginia sneered arrogantly. Hey, you've already been fired. What are you still doing here? You offended Mr. Law. He's never letting you back. Just as she finished speaking, Virginia's expression changed immediately, and she straightened up obediently. Good morning, madam. I stood before her, looking down with a cold gaze. She's now my fully authorized representative, the executive vice president of Lin Corporation. It's not your place, a mere appraiser, to act so arrogantly here. Inform Andrew that I want to meet him in the conference room in 15 minutes. Virginia answered snidely. Madam, Mr. Law has a meeting soon. He probably doesn't have time to see you. Oh, then tell him I'm here to discuss our divorce. If he doesn't show up in 15 minutes, tomorrow I'll be filing for divorce in court, in front of all the employees. I patted Virginia's shoulder. Work hard. I'm giving you the position of Mrs. Law. Whether you can actually sit in that seat, that's up to you. 10 minutes later, Andrew walked into the conference room, his face cold and stiff. Just as I finished firing 2 employees who had publicly flattered Virginia, I wanted everyone to see. Offend Andrew's assistant? You could come to Lin Corporation and have a better career. Offend me, Roxana? You'll be out the door. Roxana, making a scene at the company in broad daylight. What exactly do you want? Andrew demanded. I didn't reply. Instead, my assistant placed a divorce agreement in front of him. Mr. Law, here's the document. Review the terms and sign at the end. Andrew stared at the divorce agreement, his eyes flashing with rage. Roxana, what the hell are you doing? I pointed at the papers in front of him. Divorcing you. Can't you read? I've outlined the asset division very clearly. As for the company's projects, our divorce won't affect the collaboration between the two families. But starting this year, I'll take an extra 5% from the year-end dividends. You're divorcing me because of Virginia? Andrew, I told you very clearly that time it would be the first and the last time. If you care so much about that little appraiser, I'll step aside and leave you to her. Bang! Andrew slammed the table hard. Roxana, I've told you 1,000 times. I didn't cheat. What will it take for you to believe me? I nodded. I do believe you. I also know you haven't done anything that outright betrayed me, yet. Then why do you still insist on divorcing me? I met his eyes directly. Because to me, you're already tainted. You gave your employee a million-yuan bracelet. You let her take my place at events. You shared candlelight dinners with her. You even brought her back home to our old estate. You see every post she makes on social media. Everyone around me has been warning me, and it's not just one person telling me how close you two have become. Yet you chose to ignore it all. Andrew, I'm not stupid. Isn't what you're doing just a subtle way of telling me to make way for her? If I were out and about with another man, brought him home, had candlelight dinners with him, and even introduced him to my parents, then told you we were just friends, how would you feel? I pointed at the divorce papers in front of him. Sign it quickly. I have a prenatal appointment this afternoon. I don't have time to waste with you. Andrew froze, staring dead into my eyes. You're pregnant? Yeah. 47 days already. Andrew immediately thought back to that night after our argument, the crazy night we spent together. Don't overthink it. The baby isn't yours. Shock flickered across Andrew's face. What nonsense are you talking about? That night, I said, it's not yours. I cut him off coldly. This child, whoever I say the father is, that's who it is. Anyway, it has nothing to do with you. He's mine alone. And he'll take my last name. Roxana, what are you saying? I shot him a glance. Exactly what it sounds like. Andrew, my child doesn't need a father who can't let go of his first love, nor a father who flirts shamelessly with his subordinate. You may not have cheated yet, but you've allowed her to provoke me. You've accepted her affection and her little secret gestures. Maybe today you still have your boundaries, but who knows if you'll betray me one day. Andrew, I don't dare to gamble, and I don't want to gamble. It's better to kill the weeds at the seedling stage than to clean them out when the vegetables are about to ripen. This child will grow up with me alone. He'll only be mine, and he'll have nothing to do with you. I told you, you're already tainted. I don't want you anymore. Andrew, let's get divorced. In the end, Andrew didn't sign the divorce papers. When I walked out the company doors, Virginia chased after me. Madam, please wait. She stood in front of me, trying to maintain some dignity. Can we talk? We'll talk here. I'm very busy and don't have time for your nonsense. There was a shadow in her eyes. Madam, I think you've misunderstood. Mr. Law and I, really, there's nothing between us. Stop. I directly cut her off. If you're just here to say this kind of useless drivel, I'm not interested. Virginia, everyone has their little schemes, but yours are so blatant that it disgusts me. You wear that bracelet every day, no matter what outfit you have on, just to constantly remind everyone that you are special in Andrew's eyes, that you are different from the others. You post your daily work life with him all over social media, flaunting how close you are, how you enjoy privileges others don't have. You know there are occasions you shouldn't attend, yet you insist on staying, just to test how far his feelings for you could go. If you had no such thoughts, you wouldn't have bragged in the company pantry about your tips on conquering the CEO to your so-called girlfriends. Virginia's face paled. How do you know about that? I sighed. Because I'm still the lady of this company, and people are much more willing to tell me what they overhear than to keep your secrets. So what? You're still divorcing Mr. Law anyway. Has he signed the divorce papers yet? A flash of smugness passed through Virginia's eyes. So what? Sooner or later, he will. And you're so sure that once I divorce him, you'll automatically take my place? What can you actually offer him? Do you have a powerful family background to strengthen his business ties? Do you have vast networks to expand his markets? Do you have a massive backing to open doors for him? But I look like his dead first love. I can bring back his happy memories. I couldn't help but laugh. So you're admitting you're just a substitute. You know you're a fake he'll eventually lose interest in, right? If Andrew can protect you, then go ahead, let him. But I'm not exactly a saint. I bear grudges, and I'm not patient enough to wait 10 years. I usually don't take that long to take revenge. She looked at me warily. What are you going to do? If you lay a finger on me, Mr. Law won't let you get away with it. Relax. I'm not going to touch you. I just spread your little stories far and wide. Soon enough, you'll find that you're infamous in this entire industry. I believe Mr. Law will start feeling the pressure. Maybe he'll shuffle you off to some meaningless position. Maybe, if he's cruel enough, he'll just fire you outright. After all, like you said, you're just a fake. If you really were his first love, maybe I'd have had no chance. But you're just a poor substitute. How much value do you think you really have? Oh, by the way, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. I pulled out my phone and played a short video for her. Here's your dog, the one you've been raising for years, even hiring a personal walker for it. Well, my driver accidentally hit it today. You should be receiving a compensation notice very soon. Sorry for your loss. With that, I turned around and left, leaving Virginia crouching at the company entrance, sobbing uncontrollably. I hadn't expected Lisa to dig up such a mountain of dirt. She even uncovered Virginia's scandals from her high school days. Back then, Virginia had to drop out after getting pregnant, then had an abortion and started working at nightclubs. At one nightclub, she met a university professor. By becoming his secret lover, she secured a college degree. After her contract with the professor ended, she got involved with a manager at a job recruitment agency, which landed her an internal interview opportunity. By leveraging her resemblance to Andrew's first love, she successfully entered the company and became Andrew's appraiser. With such a colorful history, how could Lisa pass up the chance to avenge her best friend? In just a week, Lisa and her husband spread Virginia's entire sordid history far and wide. Everyone knew now that the Law family's heir had injured his wife over a worthless woman and even forced her into a divorce. Mr. and Mrs. Law could no longer sit still, especially after learning that I was pregnant. They immediately summoned Andrew back to the old estate and gave him a harsh family punishment. The very next morning, when Virginia arrived at the company, she was greeted by a termination notice from HR. Virginia refused to accept it. She screamed and demanded to see Andrew, but he ordered security to throw her out. On top of that, they reclaimed the million-yuan bracelet from her wrist. That evening, Mr. and Mrs. Law brought Andrew to my home to apologize, practically begging for forgiveness, only to be viciously scolded by my father. You only come to apologize now after finding out my daughter's pregnant? Where the hell were you before? He's your son. Are you telling me you couldn't control your own damn kid, letting a little appraiser step all over my daughter? Clearly you've never respected our Lin family. If that woman were really the first love who died saving your son, maybe I'd have accepted it. But you let a counterfeit trample my daughter like this? You must think we're easy to bully. If my daughter doesn't divorce that little bastard today, maybe tomorrow she'll have to watch him flaunting a new mistress in public. Our Lin family doesn't need to stoop so low. You can keep your Law family to yourselves. My grandson isn't carrying your Law family bloodline. He doesn't need your son rushing in to claim him. Mr. and Mrs. Law turned red with shame, their true intentions thoroughly exposed. Yet for the sake of their grandson, they could only swallow their pride and plead with me to forgive Andrew and give the Law family another chance. Unfortunately, when I had given Andrew a chance, he didn't want it. Now, I had no plans to offer him another. Andrew kept pestering me for months, but seeing that my heart was set, he eventually had no choice but to agree to the divorce and sign the papers obediently. On the day we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize it, Lisa updated me on Virginia's latest news. Apparently, Virginia had latched onto another wealthy man in another city, but the man's wife found out. The wife disfigured Virginia's face, and after that, Virginia vanished completely from the scene. See? A proper first love should be dead, or at least disappear as if dead. After 10 months of pregnancy, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. At the hospital, Mr. and Mrs. Law held a baby photo of young Andrew, comparing it with the tiny pink baby boy in front of them, virtually identical, and were moved to tears. Seeing them so overwhelmed with joy, My father promptly kicked them out of the hospital room. Infuriated, Mr. Law beat Andrew senseless in the hospital corridor, nearly sending him into the ER himself. From then on, the Law family trio started visiting our home almost every other day, enduring countless cold shoulders yet stubbornly persisting. When Noah was a little over a year old, he began walking and learned to call out Grandpa, Grandma, and Daddy. I didn't stop Noah's grandparents from visiting, after all. More people loving Noah wasn't a bad thing. Every time Noah called out Grandpa or Grandma, the old couple would curse Andrew again, and every time Noah called out Daddy, Andrew's eyes would redden on the spot because I had told Noah, "That's not your daddy, don't call him that." Andrew begged me countless times to remarry him, pleading that Noah couldn't grow up without a father, but I rejected him every time. In love, forgiving once lays the foundation for countless future betrayals, and I've never been in the habit of handing over my heart to anyone. Just as I had told him back then, that was the first time and it would also be the last. As for his belated apologies now, I no longer needed them.